Now let's look at the 512's sequencer functions. You activate the sequencer by pressing the sequencer key from the keyboard mode. At this point, we can select sequences, any sequences within the current bank. Since nothing else is selected, we have 29 sequences here, each one assigned to a different key. Each sequence can be up to 64 steps long. It will record the pitch, note duration, velocity value, and glide per individual step. And you are free to select different sequences on the fly. They will update and play the next sequence when the current sequence reaches its loop point. So let's go ahead and play. I'm going to select this one. That's how you select the different sequences and change the bank. You have 0 through +4 are banks. So you have 5 banks of 29 patterns, which gives you 145 patterns in all. This is also nice, like let's say we're transposing our sequence once it's playing. And now that we're in transpose mode, this keyboard no longer allows us to select the pattern live from the keyboard. So we just hold down the arpeggiator pattern button, and at that time we can change to a different bank or select that. And you'll notice that when we let go of that, since our transpose was activated, it'll go back into the transpose mode, and now our keyboard is used for transposition. The same will apply if we go into the hold mode and had been selecting chords. It'll jump back into the chord mode. So let's go ahead and just deactivate transpose for now and start playback. This is just a real simple sequence I entered. You'll notice if I go to any other sequence, nothing's going to happen because it's basically defaulted as empty. I haven't written anything there. So why don't we go ahead and write a sequence. To do that, you select the location you'd like, hold the sequence button and press play to enter record mode. You then are going to look at the labels below these switches. Here, if we press this button, we'll enter a rest. If we press that button, we'll add a glide. Press this button, we can adjust the velocity value that's going to be assigned to a note. And if we hold this button, we can define the note duration. The note duration will range from 5% up to 100% plus a sustain. Also, as a kind of hidden shortcut, let's say you're entering this in quickly. If you'd like to write a sustain note, you can also hold the range key and press a note, and that will enter in a sustain for that step. So by default, when you enter into a sequence edit mode, velocity value is defaulted to 127 as a value for velocity, and note duration is set up to be just 50% duty cycle. So if we want to enter patterns in a way like the vintage synths and do it very quickly, every time we play a note on this keyboard, we're going to be entering a pitch at a 50% duty cycle. Let's just try that. And let's say that note I wanted to sustain. I can use the octave back button to step back. And now I'm going to hold this button to sustain it. And I'm going to press that note again. And I'm going to press it again because I want it to sustain to that note. And then I want to enter a rest. Now let's play some more notes. And let's say, oops, I wanted to sustain that note too. Step back one step. Hold the sustain note. Maybe I want to sustain it for a couple steps. Let's say, oops, I hit the wrong note there. Let's step back. And maybe I wanted to sustain that too. Put a rest. And you'll notice these LEDs are changing as I enter notes. These are the beats and these are the bars. So if I go, I can manually step here. So right now it's ready to enter a note into location bar 2, beat 1. And at any time you exit the record mode, it'll set the loop point for there. So let's say I want to loop that right there. Hit the play key. And now hit the play key again. And sound if we select our other pattern. It's as simple as that. Now let's say we want to play a little bit with writing different note durations or entering different velocity values or setting a step to glide. Let's select a different pattern. And so there's our pattern. When we enter edit mode, you'll notice that we always start at the beginning of the bar. And again, let's just enter in some notes. First notes will be at 127. Now let's change that velocity value to about halfway and enter some 50% duty cycles. And let's change the velocity a little lower. And even lower. And you can hear that velocity changing in the module that we're playing. Let's just give that a try and listen to it. So that sound has a little variation with changes in velocity. Let's go back into record mode. And this time we're going to play with the note duration. So let's go ahead and write the first note duration as, let's make a sustained. You have two methods for writing sustains. If I go in here and select this high note, which is a sustain, if I just write every note's going to be written as a sustain. But if I change this duration to 100%, go down to 50%, makes the duration much shorter. Enter some rests, change the duration a little more. I can change the duration for every single step. And let's say I wanted to make that note sustain. Say I wanted to sustain that one too. Alright, I think we're done. Alright, so that's basically how you would enter in a sequence. If we wanted to add glides, we'd basically hold the glide key before we press a step. Other than that, you basically know how to program a sequence now. We can control start stop using the play key. We can add shuffle, change the tempo, we could change our rhythm patterns on the fly. We could add chords to that. We can play different transpositions. Since transpose is on, we can change the octave that it's playing in. We could change the octave reiterations that are happening automatically. We could change the direction of playback. Now it's going to play backwards. It's going to play up and down. Let's go to a lower octave. Different variation of up and down. And even random. Oops. So now we're randomizing that sequence. Let's try some scalar transposition. Let's go back to a standard direction. Select a different rhythm pattern. And notice how our pattern sounds different. We're hearing other pitches based on if notes are happening or not for the rhythm pattern. And if we select a different sound, so we can change our sound on the fly as well. We can assign different chord notes. They were playing an individual note. Transposing. Let's try a different scale. Add pitch bend. Add modulation. And control stop and start. So there's a lot of different things you can do with this sequencer. It's very easy to use and it's very musical as well. I mean, you can enter in a little melody riff and then really manipulate it to your heart's content with transposing it, manipulating the scales, doing scalar transpositions, manipulating the MIDI channels, throwing the sound out to different sounds, and changing directions, changing the ranges. Lots of fun to have. So go ahead and try it yourself. Thanks for watching.